Howdy folks, Harrison from Mainely Acres Farm. Hopefully all you guys out there are doing real good. I know this quarantine stuff has got a lot of people down, but hopefully it's giving you guys some time to get some crafting projects that you've had on the sideboard over there waiting to get done. Hopefully you're able to accomplish some of those. I know I've been doing a lot of playing around with the hemp fibers and doing a lot of leather crafting and different little side craft projects that I plan to share with you guys on the video coming out after this one. So if you're interested in what I've been doing during the home quarantine with my crafting and whatnot, I'll share that video after this one. Today's video, I really just want to talk about hemp fibers, mainly the raw hemp bast fibers. Talk about some methods that I've used in trying to felt this material, talk about the successes and the failures, and also share with you a few hemp fiber projects that I've been playing around with. So the first one I want to share with you guys is some of the hemp paper that I've made here. And this is a 60-40 mix, so the 60% is just recycled paper, so you get a lot of bills and stuff in the mail. And that's what we did. We just wetted those up, chopped them up, you know, regular paper production. And then we added 40% of these raw hemp bast fibers, which gave us a really nice textured paper here. Now, this paper here, I used, like I said, the simple water method where you get a large tub of water and you put all of your torn up bits of paper and your hemp fibers in, and then use a screen to pull it out. The only thing I didn't do with these is I did not press them or put any weights on them or anything, but they came out really good nonetheless. So we'll pull out a sheet here so you guys can take a look. See, it's pretty pliable there. It didn't come out like cardboard, which I was thinking that it was going to, but it came out really nice. See if I can kind of hold it into the light here where you guys can see. It's not too thick. There is still some light coming through in spots and whatnot. But it's a real nice, if you guys are into textured paper, you'll really like this stuff. And it was real simple and easy to make. Like I said, you just need a large tote that you can fill up with water and use some recycled paper, shred it up into fine pieces, soak it in water overnight until it makes like a slurry or like a paper mache, and then just go ahead and add your hemp fibers to it and it will come out real nice. Another thing that I was able to finally get accomplished was my hemp fiber hat. And so that's what the majority of the rest of this video is going to be talking about, is how I was able to finally felt the hemp bast fibers, and also talk about some of the methods that I tried that weren't so successful. So if you guys are longtime followers of ours, you know that we put out a video where we tried to wet felt these raw hemp bast fibers, and we weren't too successful in there. So I definitely wanted to come back and revisit and try a few different other ideas with the fiber. So that's what I want to share with you guys. So just regular wet felting, needle felting this fiber without adding anything to it, you're going to get the same results. It's not going to felt with itself. It's going to be very weak and very easy to pull apart, which you guys probably saw in that video when we were trying to just wet felt this without adding anything to it. Now, a couple different methods that I've tried since shooting that video is kind of making a wet paper mache. So I'd take this material and wet it out and then just lay it onto my hat mold and just kind of doing layers around the hat until I completely covered it. I allowed it to dry and I was able to get a hat off of the mold. The only problem is that it's just laying these fibers on top of each other and they're not going to hold. So you're left with a very weak hat that is definitely not going to hold up to any type of wear. Another method that I tried was using the paper mache method by using some kind of a binder in it. So what I did was I took some white school glue and I watered it down a bit, followed a basic paper mache recipe, and I layered the fibers once again on the hat mold, put the paste all over it and allowed it to dry. The only problem with that is you're left with a very rigid hat that's similar to this hat mold, and it's left, when it dries, that's the shape that that hat is going to stay in. There is no reforming the hat after that, and once again, you're relying 100% on that binder to hold your fibers together, because these naturally do not felt on themselves unless you add some other fibers to it. So that's exactly what I did in order to get this completed project done over here, is I mixed this raw hemp bast fiber with some merino wool that I have over here. The first method that I tried was the layering method. So I put a layer of wool down on my felting table and then layered a layer of the raw hemp bast fibers right on top, similar to this, and then tried wet felting those together. The problem that I ran into with that is that these two layers never felted together, so you could just peel that off once you got done wet felting it, and the bottom layer would shrink in because it's felting on itself, and the top layer never did, and so it just made a huge mess, and I was not able to achieve a good product by doing the layering method. So the one last ditch effort that I tried was thoroughly mixing these two fibers together. So here on the homestead, I don't have a fancy drum carding machine. I do everything by these old-fashioned hand carders. So what I did was I loaded up about 50% of the card with the raw hemp bast fibers and the other 50% with the wool, and I went ahead and then carded that together and made little roll logs of these mixed fibers, and then I took those fibers, laid them out on my felting table, and felted the hat here. Now, by thoroughly mixing those, it allowed the whole project to felt together very well and hold nice and strong. I'll bring this back over. You guys can take a look here. You can see that the fibers held really good together. This hat wasn't too thick, which I really liked about that. I did it all in one thick layer instead of doing multiple layers and then felting it, and it came out really nice. Not too thin, not too thick. So this hat is not all finished. I still have the inside sweatband to sew in and a hat band to put on it. But other than that, it is all done and ready to move on to some other things with that. One last thing I wanted to share with you guys about further processing this. Some of you guys may have seen this fiber here, and what this is this is the same fiber as this. It's just this has gone through a cleaning and degumming process. Something that I wanted to share with you guys was I was able to achieve this at home using very limited tools and chemicals to get it to this final clean process here. So all you do is you take your raw hemp bast fibers, you put it in a large stock pot on your stove, and you allow it to boil. And I mean a full roiling boil for about 10 to 12 minutes. Once that's done, you strain out that water. You'll see that there's a lot of color being taken out of the fiber just by boiling it. And that main process, what that's going to do is to naturally get some of the wax and gum and chlorophyll out of your fiber, so that way when you take it to the next process, which is basically straining off the water and filling it back with warm water and soaking it in a half a cup of bleach. I soak it in there for about 4 or 5 hours until the fibers are nice and white, and then I just lay them out on a screen and dry them. So this fiber here has not been carded out yet. Once it is, it'll overfill this bag. It just fluffs out and it looks like cotton. It's really hard to tell the difference between raw cotton and this fiber now that it's been degummed. So it's a real simple process. I was told in the beginning when I started messing with the hemp fiber that it's a huge expensive process to be able to degum your fibers, and you need a lot of equipment and all this, and that is just completely bogus. I was able to achieve a really nice clean and degum product by just simply boiling it and then soaking it in a half a cup of bleach and water for about 3 to 4 hours, and that's it. You let it dry, you run this through the cards, and you have a real nice white fluffy material to work with. I know a few of you guys are into making the felted hat, so I wanted to share a real quick recipe for you guys. if you are interested in that. And that is this hat stiffener that I created or made. And basically all it is alcohol and shellac flakes. Now, I didn't come up with this recipe on my own. There's plenty of blogs and websites out there for your own hat stiffener recipe. And it's real simple. You just use a high-proof alcohol. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol. And what's really interesting about this is when I was reading the blogs, a lot of people were saying that you have to have 99 or 98% alcohol. Anything under that will not work, but I was able to achieve some really good results with this 91. The ratio that I use for mixing these two, because there's all sorts of different recipes, this is a 1 quart container, and I added 15 grams of the shellac flakes to this, allowed them to dissolve, and just mixed it up real good, and it mixed pretty thoroughly. There's nothing sitting at the bottom. So I was real happy to see that I was able to make my own using something like the 91%. One important thing when you are ordering your shellac flakes, you want to make sure that they have gone through a de-waxing process. Another important thing to think about is you're using different colored fibers and you don't want the color to be distorted. You'll probably want to go with something like I did, which is a super blonde shellac flake, so that way it doesn't distort the fibers that much when you put it on. Another important thing to learn as well that I learned from a fellow YouTuber, you always want to mix your mix lighter than you think you're going to need. The reason being is because you can always add more shellac flakes to your mix. You can't take it away. So that was a real important tip that I wanted to share with you guys when you're mixing up your own little hat stiffener. And all you do is you'll put this into a spray bottle. You'll spritz your hat, kind of rub it in with your hands, and then start shaping it and allowing it to dry. And what that hat stiffener is going to do is allow your hat to take shape. So if you wanted to do kind of like a, you know, a musketeer hat like this, you can achieve that with the hat stiffener and it will stay into place. And the great thing about this is that you can use hot steam to reform your hat. So you don't like that style anymore, you add some steam, you can start folding creases in your hat. You can do all sorts of things with your felted hats. That's what I really love about making the felted hats, because you can make them into anything you want. You can buy a simple hat mold like this, which is it's just a dome, how they say, dome medium plus. I ordered this from hatshapers.com. Once again, it's not a paid for advertisement. I went out and purchased this myself. But I figured if you guys are getting into making the felted hats, this is a really good first mold that you guys should buy if you are interested in making these. So that's about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, take care. Spend time with that family.